Hello, friend and colleague. It is Nikki from Full Voice Music on our podcast show today, episode 187, season 8 premiere. My special guest is Bethany Turpin. She is a voice teacher from Yarmouth, and today we are talking about doing scary things like raising rates. In fact, Bethany's going to tell you how she doubled her rates. Business savvy teachers doing hard things right here on the Full Voice Podcast. Hello, my friend and colleague. Thank you, and welcome. Welcome, oh my gosh, to season 8. 8 years of talking to incredible people, sharing the business strategies and pedagogy and all things happening in your studio. Thank you so much for being part of our community. I'm so excited, and I'm a little in shock, really. 8 years. Wow. Who knew? 187 episodes. That's a lot. There's days where I just kind of shake my head and go, I can't believe we've done all these. Anyhow, my friend, I'm so excited. I have a wonderful interview and something that I just, one of my reasons for doing this podcast is to help teachers build businesses and studios that they love and businesses that are successful. And I am sharing, I've invited my friend Bethany to share her story. She has done some incredible things. And she's built a studio in a very small community. And she doubled her rates. That's right, doubled them. So if you're sitting there going, oh, should I raise my rates $3 or $5? No, Bethany doubled them, and she's going to dive into that. So before we get to this very inspiring conversation, I have some important announcements. First and foremost, if you have not been to our website, fullvoicemusic.com, we right now, if you're listening to this podcast at time of release, we have our back to school sale, and you can save 20% on all our digital downloads. That includes our song download packages. It includes our digital songbooks. It includes our digital teacher resources. And you can save 20% on our new online course. If you are new to working with young singers and you would like to dive into the pedagogy and all things working with kids from ages 6 to 10 before voice change, the Happy Singing Teacher Training online course is now 20% off. And I'm going to encourage you to take advantage of it because we keep adding courses and lessons. We add lessons to our course, so it is a forever growing program, but the price is going to go up soon. So take advantage now because it will never, ever, ever be at this low price again. So if you want more details, they are in the show notes. The Happy Singing Teacher online course is there. And I do want to mention that we have a lot of wonderful teacher training opportunities. We have a play-based learning, engagement, and lesson pacing module that you can take advantage of. That's a recorded workshop. And we have new live workshops, one all about small group classes. And Bethany is going to talk about her small group classes today. There's so many teacher training opportunities. Please check out our website, fullvoicemusic.com. Check out the teacher training tab. I would love to see you. I would love to meet you in a Zoom room. They're very intimate. And they are fun workshops. And we have people from around the world. And I do try, it's hard. I do try to pick a time when I can invite as many time zones as possible. But if it's not in a time zone that is friendly for you, yes, there is always a replay that you can watch. So, my friends, please take advantage of our sale. Please take advantage of our teacher training. There's nothing more inspiring than having new ideas and new strategies to take back to your studio. Now, without any further ado, a very wonderful, brave, young teacher and her story right here on the podcast. Welcome to the season 8 premiere podcast, Bethany Turpin. How are you?
Yay, I'm so good. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited to talk to you, Bethany, and I want to thank you for your time. I know, like most teachers, you're busy. You're gearing up for a new season of teaching. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to just before we get started, I wanted to tell everybody a couple of years ago, actually this is our third summer here. A couple of years ago, my family and we moved to Nova Scotia. And I got the warmest, funniest, friendliest email from this woman here who was like, "Hi, you don't know me, but I'd really like to meet you and welcome you to the province." And I was like, "What is happening? This is Nova Scotians are so nice. I've got voice teachers wanting to meet me. This is crazy." Anyhow, we sat down. We had this incredible. We must have talked for like 3 hours, 4 hours.
It was a long time.
And we just had a lovely time, and I had a new friend. And Bethany, I cannot thank you enough for that kindness, and I was also like, man, she's bold. Like, I don't know if I would call up somebody that I didn't know, me like, "Hi, welcome to my province."
I was like, oh, Nikki Lodi is moving to my province and she's going to be close to me. I need to meet this person.
Well, I was really wonderful, and you were telling me your story. Like you were actually at the time you were moving to Dartmouth because you had gotten an adjunct position at the university and you were all excited about that.
Mhm.
And there was like all this change happening in your life. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. She's got so much going on. But anyhow, a lot of things have happened for you over the last couple of years. And I love sharing success stories on the podcast. And you, my friend, are so inspiring, and I want to celebrate you and everything you're doing, and I think that you are going to help a lot of teachers listening who might be in the same position. Maybe they're starting up their studio, maybe they're transitioning from one type of job to another. So, I do we want to start from where we met and what was going on, and then we'll do the life story from there.
Yeah, I'm happy to start there.
All right. Well, give them a little bit of your background because you are, I should have introduced you as Dr. Bethany
Oh,
Turpin because you had just gotten your doctorate when I met you.
no, I was like on the edge,
Oh
like
my
right
good.
at the very end of getting it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna turn things over to you. So, you, I guess that was 2021. We had just
Yeah.
had coffee. All right. Let us give us a little picture of what was happening there.
It was 2021. We were having
It
coffee.
was a dark and stormy day.
um, yeah, and then I was right at the end of my doctorate in musical arts. So I was like working on my thesis and feeling like I was never getting anywhere and it was never going to end and I was just going to be stuck there forever.
Right.
Um, and I had been teaching in this little town of Yarmouth. I'd only been teaching there a year because I moved there from Ontario. It was a whole thing. Anyway, I'd been teaching for a year. It had been going well. And I had applied and been offered a job at Dalhousie University. And I took this job because, of course, I got my doctorate because I thought I would like to be a professor.
Hmm.
Um, Turns out that you don't just become a professor, that's actually quite difficult to become one of those. Um, and so I got this job, and I was like, I have to take this job, even though it's like a 1 year contract. I have to have this experience. So I moved to Halifax and taught there for a year, and I loved teaching. I loved the students. Uh, it's just a very difficult time to live in Halifax right now. The
Yeah.
rent was incredible. My cost of living tripled.
Wow.
It's like a whole thing. Um, and yeah, I worked there for a year, and then after the 1 year contract ended, my job kind of like didn't exist anymore.
Ugh.
They decided not to, they wanted to make it per course instruction instead of just one big job.
Yes.
Um, and I didn't want to return to a university for a pay cut
Mm,
and less job security, you know.
sure. Oh, I do.
Um, and also I missed Yarmouth. I missed the little town, and I love teaching privately. I love being my own boss.
Mm.
And so I moved back here the summer of 2022, and then I sort of like revived to the studio. It's like, oh, haha, I'm back.
Wow.
Remember me? And yeah, during kind of the tail end of working at Dalhousie, and then through into the beginning of this year of teaching, I did the how to run how to run your voice business without hating your boss, which I think is hilarious. Um, and I did that largely because I knew that I didn't know anything about running a business, and it was like a big financial investment, and it was scary, to make that
Sure.
kind of investment when I was
Yep.
like, I'm changing jobs and students, who knows if they will come.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I did that, and that really helped me get set up. And I taught, and I taught, and I'm still alive, and I still have a roof over my head. And here we are, ready for another year.
Oh, I'm really glad, and I just want to circle back, you mentioned how scary it is, and I can appreciate, I know for us moving to a new province and leaving my studio behind and not really knowing what to expect and getting started again is really challenging. But I would love for you for people that don't know, Yarmouth is on the end of Nova Scotia. So people from Maine come over on the ferry on the Cat to Yarmouth. So tell everybody how big Yarmouth is. Like, it is a small place.
Oh yeah, it's small. The Yarmouth town has maybe about 2,000 people in it. And then the county, I'm not totally sure. There are a lot more people in the county, but
Mm,
it's like less than 50,000 people for sure.
right.
It's small and quite rural, and like the nearest Costco is a 3.5 hour drive away. Like
Okay.
that's that kind of rural.
I can just vision now people listening to the podcast knowing that you would have to drive 3.5 hours to a Costco. They're like grabbing onto their chests, going, "What? Oh
Oh
no!"
yeah, it's like a weekend thing. Like put the
Right?
coolers in the truck. We're going to Costco.
And it's interesting too because you see this, and we've talked about this, prior to the recording, but a lot of people seem to think that if you're in a small town, you've got less opportunity to build a successful business. And you ran into some resistance to, like, because you went through a big price increase,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and you had some people that had some thoughts about that. You wanna share that with everybody?
Oh yeah. Um, so when I first moved here in 2020 to teach, that was a great time to be a singing teacher.
Oh,
Um, I tried out a sliding scale. So you could pay me anywhere between 40 to $60 an hour.
wow.
Um, yeah, which made me the most expensive music teacher in the area. Um, and I tried out, and it worked pretty well, actually. Like, I found that people who could afford paid more, people who couldn't afford paid less. But there was also this added component of people who could afford but just valued my services less, paid
Ouch.
less.
Right?
Which, was a little difficult to deal with. And then when I moved back here in 2022, I I started charging last year. I charged like between 85 and $100 an hour.
Okay,
So,
let's just sit here for a second. Let's just sit here for a second. Okay, so you more than doubled your price.
oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so for people listening to this who are going onto forums saying, I raised my rates $3 and I waited 6 years to do that. Okay, so Bethany just said you doubled your prices. Okay, let's unpack that. Let's unpack that. So how did you were like, yeah, I'm charging more, and did you have some feelings about it?
Oh, I had a great many feelings. Um, I like it was really scary. And a lot of the things that, I think everybody who increases their rates is like, maybe no one will come back. Maybe I will be penniless on the streets. Um, I think the thing that really galvanized me to be like, I'm doing it and I'm not apologizing and I'm not looking back was the math,
Mm,
which I'm not a huge math fan, but I did some math and and it was kind of like, this is how much is required to run my business and be able to live.
mhm,
I can't argue with that. And also a realization of like, there's no point in running a business that can never support you.
right.
Like, that it's like, if I just don't charge enough, it doesn't matter how many students I have, I will still not be able to make a living off of my business. And
Mhm,
that will result in business failure eventually. And so I at least want to have the hope of my business being solvent
yeah.
and something that I can actually live off of. And also things around like so many mindset things that um, I personally, I don't know how everyone else feels. I just had accepted from day one of music school that like musicians are poor, they will always be
Mhm,
poor, you are always going to struggle. And then um, I kind of started to believe that like I deserved those things,
mm,
that it's like I chose to be a musician, so I deserve to struggle. I deserve to never make enough money to be comfortable. And that's like the thing.
mm,
And just kind of realizing that, yeah, those things are true for a lot of people, a lot of, musicians and not. But it's not something that's like, oh, this is just a consequence of your poor choices. It's like, no, I chose to be a musician, which is a thing I really love and a thing that's very valuable, and that I deserve to have the same amount of security and happiness as other people do. And that's like, I don't know, that's it's okay to want those things, and you're allowed to structure your business in a way that will allow you to have those things, even if it's not right away. Uh, that that like at least working towards that, and
yeah.
that's and I I'm like a big tangent, but I'm
No,
coming
no,
back
this is
around.
beautiful. This is beautiful.
I'm coming back around to like when I came back. Of course, I contacted all of my former students and was like, hello, I'm back. Here are the new rates. Like,
Yeah.
this is it.
Okay, I'm dying to know. So you came back with new rates, contacted old students. What was the response? Like, what happened?
Well, I had two of my former students return. So previously I'd had about 30 students, and two of them came back, which was that was really scary because, it's like, oh, this is my base of students, of people who've like wanted voice lessons before. Um, I did have a couple people, kind of be like, oh, this is too expensive for me. And I had to like, I don't know, I had to like look at myself in the mirror and like have fake conversations where I'm like, how can I talk about these things where I'm not apologizing and where I'm not like where I can handle that pressure of like it's so tempting to be like, "Oh, I'll just like I'll give you a discount or I'll do this thing for you." And it's really hard for someone to be like, "You're too expensive." And me to be like, "That's okay." Like and recognizing that if people really want something, not all the time, but many people will find a way. Like they'll find a way to afford the things that they want. And and that's and the thing is like because I know so many teachers are like, "Oh, I want to help people who can't normally afford lessons." And like that was 100% me growing up. My family couldn't afford music lessons. I really wanted them. Eventually, I got to go to music lessons when I was 14 and I was so excited. So like I totally understand the like some people just can't afford it and it's so you want to help those people. And I think that there are ways to help people who maybe just like it's just not in the cards. However, starving to death is not one of those ways.
Thank you. Yes.
And that, like, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself before you try to help other people. Um, and yeah, and I also had like a lot of my kind of friends and family when I was like, okay, I did all the math and here's my new rates. They're like, no one here is going to pay that amount of money.
Okay. So let's speak to that. So you had family and friends tell you that that was not going to work.
Oh yeah, they're like people here, like those are city prices. People don't pay that here. People here can't afford that.
Mm.
And I was and I kind of goes back to the like, well, this is what it takes to run my business. If it's gonna fail, it's like it's gonna fail. Like if I have to get a
Right.
second job or whatever, I like if it can't be a business, then it can't be a business. And I need to be able to accept that. But clearly I'm here because I think it will work. And
Now, how many that you know of, like there's other music teachers in
yeah,
Yarmouth, right?
yep.
And would you say that they are completely devaluing their services by what they're charging?
Yes, they are. And it makes me so like sad because they have such experience and they're so talented and these amazing teachers. I have taken lessons from some of the local teachers and it's so hard. Like they're such hard workers. They have so many students and they charge so little and I just I don't know. I'm like, you don't have to. You don't have to. Kind of like you always say, like, you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. And I just like, and also like, if you have 50 students, one, that's a problem
That's a lot.
because that's so many.
Yeah.
But also double your rates, have half the students and make the same amount of money. And you would still be doing them a favor.
Yeah, I think there's also that mindset too sometimes that we get into where more is better, right? More is better. Well, more is more emails and more families, more people at a recital, longer
Yep.
recitals, more resources. Like it's not better, it's just more.
It's more admin. Think of the
Oh,
admin.
more. Gosh, if I had to respond to 50 emails in a day, I would die.
Right? And can you imagine 50 students just being like, oh, I'm sick, or like, oh, this, or like the dog ate my piano music, or like,
No, no,
I don't have time for that.
right? Right. And then also, too, I find, my thing would be, well, if you're teaching 50 people, how much energy do you actually have for my kid? Right? Like how much, like you see that sometimes, like when there's a
Yeah.
lot of group class experiences for children.
Mhm.
And I've pulled my child out of some programs because it's like you're just not getting the attention that you need and that I'm paying for.
Yeah.
Like swimming was like that for us. Like we
Hmm.
went to semi-private lessons because my son spent, most of the class holding on to the side of the pool waiting for his turn. And it's like, that's not worth the cheap cost of these classes. Like he's just not swimming. So
Yeah.
I'll pay more to have that one-on-one or, two or three kids in the class. It's far more beneficial for me to spend more money so that he gets more instruction time. And I
Yeah.
honestly, yeah, if you're a teacher, you're 60, 50, 60 kids, like how much brain space do you have? Like I know for a fact cuz I did that, you don't. So,
Yeah.
there you
I
go.
know. I'm like, yeah. I don't know how people function. I would just be like, I just open the door to the student, be like, come in. I
Come
dad
on
like
in.
wiping the tears away, and she's like, okay, I'm ready.
Oh man.
God.
Now, um so let's go back. You had two of your previous students sign up. What did you do other than like freak out a little bit? And then like how did you build your studio essentially from scratch after doubling
Yeah.
your prices?
Yep. Okay. So here's what I did. Um,
Okay, my viewers can't see this, but Bethany has this like evil plan, like evil sinister plan gesture going on there.
yeah, just like steepling the fingers. Because, because these are things I didn't learn in music school that I'm just like, everyone needs to know. And I feel like sometimes people can be a bit dodgy about exactly how they did things. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I did this and it cost this much and it went from this to this. Um, so I moved to this town. An important thing is that I'm the only voice teacher.
Hmm.
An additional thing, am I the only voice? I've like heard legends of other voice teachers
Right.
in the area, but like I can't find them.
Okay.
And, it's like, oh, I took lessons from so and so. And I'm like, who is that? They don't have a website. I like look for them because I'm like,
Okay, so there
friends,
could be
where are
other
you?
teachers, but they are not marketing themselves at all.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know, word of mouth or something.
Hmm.
Um, so I moved here. And part of why I moved here, my family's from here. And when I would come here on vacation, people would ask me for voice lessons while I was on vacation.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I knew that like there was a demand, which is part of why I moved here, because I
Mm,
knew that people wanted voice lessons
sure.
and that, maybe I could make it work. And when I moved here, I got involved with things. So I already had a bit of a base because I'm not from here. I didn't grow up here, but my parents are from here and my extended family lives here. So I already had a bit of a network with family
Hmm.
where I could be like, I'm teaching voice lessons, tell your friends.
Sure.
Um, and it's like, there's a community theater here, and I got
Oh,
involved at the community theater. I music directed a Christmas show and tried to get community members to sing in four-part harmony with mixed results, but they worked very hard. Um, and like I emailed teachers, like music teachers for schools in the area.
Hmm.
I never heard back from any of them.
Yep.
However, I've met some of them since then, and they all know who I am.
There you
Which,
go.
like, okay, as
See,
long as you've read it, that's fine.
that's interesting, because sometimes we assume that we send something out and we don't get feedback from it, that
Yeah,
it didn't have impact, but a lot of people just don't respond back.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
helpful. Yeah.
yeah. And I literally walked down the main street with posters and went into every single store, even like random stores, the guys who sell like the buoys and the fishing stuff. I walked in and was like, hey, I teach music lessons. Can I put up a poster? And they're like, okay, like, why are you here? But I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you never know who'll see it. So I did some of that. And I know that in my community, Facebook is a big thing. A lot of people use Facebook to like know what's going on in the community and find events and stuff. So I made my Facebook page. I have an Instagram account, and I just like, it's like becoming part of groups that's like Yarmouth events and stuff like that. That it was, just sharing on those. And yeah, and just like I just try very hard to be a shameless self promoter where I'm like, and it's so like I try very hard to be a shameless self promoter, but on the inside I feel so squirmy.
Okay,
And
I want to thank you for sharing that. I really want to thank you for sharing that because like, would you say you're introverted or extroverted?
I am introverted and I'm really good at pretending to be an extrovert.
Brilliant. Okay, I want to thank you for sharing that because even as an extrovert, Shannon Coates and I always laugh at how extroverted we are, but I still feel icky sometimes when I'm out there when people like even the other day, what do you do for a living? I'm like, "Oh, I got to tell them I make children's music." That's so kind of weird. And it's right? So, I thank you for sharing that. Like for those people that feel that makes me uncomfortable, it makes a lot of us uncomfortable.
Yes.
And
Yep.
but you did the work. You did it. And so what kind of response did you get? You were out posting. Oh, by the way, I do want to say, and I'm going to put links to your socials. Bethany has beautiful branding. Like you've chosen really fun colors for your studio, and I was in Yarmouth a little while ago, and even the little sign that you have at your house. It's just little.
Yeah.
It's a cute little sign with your colors, and Bethany, Turpin's music studio. It's really well done. It's simple. There's nothing super fancy, but it's eye catching. And that's how I found your house. I was like, oh my gosh, there's Bethany's house.
Yes, and that's the thing. I put a sign on the lawn, like a little sandwich sign,
Yep.
ordered it from like Vistaprint,
Yes.
and I was so like, this is the most embarrassing thing. I cannot believe that I have a sign, a huge sign with my name on it. It's like basically Bethany Turpin lives here. And I just like, I don't know, that just feels so just like, hey, everybody. It's like, but actually, I really just want you to know where I live. And there's a QR code on the sign to my website that I like did some research to be like, how big does it have to be that you could take a picture of it from your car? Like that you don't have to
Oh,
get out.
interesting. Okay, that's
um,
smart.
yeah. And and one more thing I did because I think I got tables at craft fairs. And
Oh,
yeah, and my one goal for because I was like, what do you do at a craft fair as a music teacher? Like,
right, sure,
and I tried a bunch of different things. I found that little mini piano lessons went over well. Mini
mm,
singing lessons did not go over well because people
sure.
don't want to sing in public.
Very,
Um,
yep, yep.
yeah. But it's like my one goal was just to like raise awareness of my existence. That it's like, I just want you to have seen me before and to maybe pick up a brochure. That's all I need from this
Brilliant.
$50 table that I'm going to spend a Saturday afternoon at.
Nice.
Um, and yeah, so I did all these things. People were like, "You're too expensive. No one will afford it." And you know what? People found a way,
Yeah.
weirdly. And I just, I tried, I guess I tried. Part of it is I tried because I'm scared. Part of it is I tried because I wanted people to know.
Hmm.
I really outlined why, not why I'm expensive, but like what the benefits are of working with
Nice.
me, particularly. That,
Hmm.
like, here's why I think I can charge so much and not be a criminal. Um, and, it's like this is one on one work. And I have, like, in my studio handbook, I have like a whole thing of like, here are all the things you get when you work with me. And
Nice.
it's things that, like, I don't know, I think we don't think about that. It's like you get personalized warm-ups when you come into the lesson, you get warm-ups and technical development for you, made
Right.
by me. And like it took me many years to figure that out.
Sure.
And and like repertoire or song suggestions, or I make recordings for students, or I find them recordings, and just like all of these different things in my studio. The cost covers their books,
Hmm.
like any sheet music they need or that kind of thing. I built that into the cost, and I just like really try to outline those things and really impress on people that, like, this is like the one-on-one nature of it is so focused and
Mm.
so personalized that it's like that's what you're paying for. You can get general voice advice for free on the internet, but
Yep.
you can't get someone being like, okay, that high note is difficult for you. Let's try these things to see how that goes. Or like, you've heard of this artist. Why don't we try some of these songs and by a similar artist to see if you like them? Or someone who could just be like, I've created like we're doing a recital, a performance opportunity for you, and
Right.
someone to coach you through that and help
Hmm.
you have that experience, and like someone who knows something about performance anxiety and about your life and why you might be anxious, or like how you might approach performing. And and yeah, it's taken a while to feel confident in that, is what I think is important.
Sure.
Is like
Sure.
I wasn't born being like, I have all these things to offer people.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for bringing all that up because I honestly think that many teachers have forgotten. They
Yeah.
just take for granted all the stuff that they do. And then instead of communicating like you did in your policies and when you talk to people, this is what you get. Most teachers just get resentful because people don't understand what a private lesson actually is. A lot of parents don't think about it. A lot of students don't think about it. They've had a few private lessons and they think, yeah, that's a private lesson, whatever, but they don't actually recognize that that time is all about you and everything that you need. And it's not a small group class, it's not a choir, it's like you said, it's not a YouTube video with some general tips that may or may not help you.
Hmm.
And I love what you just said there. I really hope teachers can take that in. Like, one of the things that I love that you're saying is one of the biggest things for me that helped me with marketing is, and I think it was Marie Forleo or one of those people, and they were like, marketing is communicating what you have to offer. And that
Yeah.
took some of the ick factor out for me, right? It was
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, I just tell people what I'm doing. And so many people just don't. Even in their social media posts, you would never know that they were a voice teacher because they don't. By the way, I have to. If I'm going to share your IG platform,
Yeah.
Bethany, when she gets on there, she's like, "It's your friendly neighborhood singing teacher," and I love that because I'm like, "Yeah, you are."
Thanks. I was like, I I could get away with this corny tagline because I'm going to commit and I actually love it. So,
I love that. Now, I appreciate your vulnerability. You've had some really tough days. Like there were you only had two
Yes.
students sign up and you've had to
Yep.
do a lot of different things and
Yep.
it's hard. It's really hard.
Hmm.
How did you get through those days where you just thought this isn't going to fly or I what am I doing? Cuz we all have those thoughts.
Yes. Yep. Oh yeah. Like when you contacted me about being on this podcast, first of all, I was like, I'm going to be famous. Hooray. Uh, like I'm on Nikki Loney's podcast. Um, but also I was like, I'm a success story. Is
Oh
that
my
I mean
goodness.
that's so nice that someone thinks that. That's very validating. um, and I think it's one of those things, one of the most life-changing things that I have ever kind of realized or committed to is that being anxious, because I'm a very anxious person, being anxious about something or being afraid of something or not knowing how to do it does not mean you shouldn't do something.
Wow.
Um, which is like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I'm so scared. Like, I'm so scared. What if students don't come? And I mean, it's August. Registration is like, kind of, it's trickling in, but I
Mhm.
haven't had this like mass influx of students being like, yeah, like, it's like people are coming back. People are very slow here to like,
I
you
always
know,
found I always found people were like they would remember about registration like 2 weeks into the season, and then
oh,
I'd
yeah.
get flooded and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'm not gonna be homeless. Thank you for finally
Right.
coming
And
around."
it's so scary. And I think one of the things that helps me is like, I've done it before.
Mhm.
I lived last year. Probably I'll live this year. I'm sorry, guys. I maybe not everyone is as dire as me, like in their thinking, where I'm like, will I starve to death? And it's like, um, but it's just remembering that like I've done it before and that I can deal with whatever happens, even if it sucks. And
Mm.
that probably the worst outcome I can imagine is unlikely to happen. And
So, it seems like
and
you've made peace with the false narratives, right? The little fantasies of doom and gloom. You're like, "Yeah, yeah, that's it's not gonna get that bad."
yeah, it's kind of because it comforts me to think about what is the worst thing that could happen. And then to be like, okay, if that happened, could I deal with it? And not every that doesn't work for everyone, I don't think. But I am very much like, oh, okay. Like if the absolute worst thing happened and I like had to move into my parents' basement and like, all of these things, like I would be okay. It would be really hard, but I would be okay. And that like that's unlikely to that's unlikely to happen. And also I think being part of voice teacher communities, like
Mm.
I'm a part of the Speakeasy Cooperative,
Yep.
and just meeting other voice teachers and being like, oh, someone who just understands what my job is like, who can give advice, whose like experiences I can learn from. That's been really important. But also just someone who could be like, yeah, August is really scary before like before students sign up, before you kind of get into the year,
Hmm.
it can be really scary, or like the fluctuating income can be really difficult. And I think just having someone who can like just like hold space for you. There's like, we're not solving the problems. We're not being like, oh, don't worry, it will never be like this again. It's like, it might be like this next year. Um,
Right?
yeah, but yeah, just having people to support you, and just remembering that like things just because it's really scary doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, and it
Nice.
doesn't mean that like you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Um, that sometimes things just feel really scary. And then you have to talk like this and be like, okay, I'm doing it.
Oh my goodness. I uh I love everything you're saying. Now, I would love for you to tell you've got a couple of different offerings in your studio cuz not only you teach private, but you're also doing group
Mhm.
classes too. So tell
Yeah.
everybody about a little bit about your the workings of your studio.
Yep. Um, Perfect. Okay. So I do three different things. I teach privately, and in my private teaching, I teach voice and beginner piano. I don't teach advanced piano, just little kids, or grown-ups who are just starting. Um, and I do that through a tuition model. So the way that I frame it with people is it's just like university or college. You pay one fee for the whole term, and you can do that in a lump sum if you have that sort of money, just handy. Um, or you can do it in monthly payments, but you are not paying per month. You are making monthly payments towards a larger sum of you like. I think that's been important because so many teachers charge per month that I think my students, it's just easy to think like, oh, well, like I have one less lesson this month, so shouldn't I pay less? Or like just little things like that, that it's like, no, no, I did all the math.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because when I switched to a tuition model, that mindset, there was some explaining. I had some explaining to do. But what
Yeah.
I found is like when I explained, no, this is your tuition fee and we divide it equally every month. That actually made it easier for families because then it was like, okay, I can they can budget, right?
Yeah.
My tuition per month is this much and it never fluctuates. It's not going to be lower or higher, and I think that was a big deal for a lot of my families. And but
Yeah.
you have to explain it. You have to say, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is different. It's not per lesson. This is everything." Yeah.
Yeah. And I, yeah, part of why I like wrapped up the cost of books, or it like your tuition covers everything. Like we're doing a recording thing at Christmas time instead of a recital. Where each student's going to record a song and or be in a group to record a song, and your tuition covers the cost of that. You don't have to pay extra to participate in that. Um, and it also like it covers your books, it covers any special events we do, like it just covers everything. And I part of it is I want families to be able to budget and not be like, okay, I set aside, $200 for this. Oh, but the books are an extra 150. Like, oh no, I just wanted it to be like, you just give me this money and I will take care of it all. Um, and also, I wanted to be able to buy the books that students need and not have to be like, well, this is the book that would be really good for them, but like this one's cheaper. It's like, no,
Right.
I want to be able to buy you the books you need. And and I wanted steady income. Like
Mhm.
I wanted to be like, know how much money I am making, and I don't have to be like, oh, there's one less lesson this month, so I'm making less money this month, even though I had the same bills I always have.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
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 So I do tuition and I offer lessons in 25-minute and 50-minute increments.
Oh, interesting.
Um, yeah, it's like this is last year was my first time trying that. Before I'd always done half hour or hour long.
Hmm.
Um, I like to leave some time, and people feel differently about this. I live your life, but I wanted a few minutes between students for that transition time. And it felt weird to me personally that like you're paying for a 30-minute lesson, but at 2:25, I'm pushing you into your snow pants and out the door
Right.
so that the next student could come in like that transition time. I just didn't like that people were paying for the time to put on their shoes.
Sure.
Um, but also like I wanted the time to be like, I need a drink. I
You need
need
to
to
go to the
think about what I'm
bathroom.
doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't
Yeah.
want to feel like, oh, this is on student time. And,
Well, and some
and the,
some people get really upset about that, right? Like they're gonna stay in your home singing notes until the like
yes,
till 29:58, right? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I just wanted to help make those expectations clearer by
Hmm.
like, you get 25 minutes and then we have some time to wrap it up. Um, And so I do those two lengths. And in general, it's it's funny because originally I thought like, oh, teens and grown-ups will take the longer lessons and then little kids can take the shorter lessons. But that has actually, for I think partly for financial reasons or for time reasons, some adults take 25 minutes, some kids take 50-minute lessons. And I have found that 50 minutes for kids has actually been really helpful because I don't feel like I have to rush.
Yep.
And especially for kids who like maybe have ADHD or who are just children and have energy and short
Yeah.
attention spans, that it's like, okay, we could take a minute to talk about my goldfish and
Sure.
their new tank, and I don't have to feel like, no, get back,
Right.
we need to
Sure.
do the thing. Um, yeah, but then, for some kids, I'm like, 25 minutes is plenty.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
goodbye. Have
Yep.
fun this week. See you next time. Um, so that was a long answer. So I do tuition, I do it like that. And I do drop-in lessons,
Oh.
which, yeah, for the thing with drop-in lessons is that I don't like having my schedule messed up. So I generally encourage people to do tuition. And I've tried to, like, last year, I tried for some people who had like shift work or that kind of thing. I was like,
Sure.
you just they had the ability to book their lesson as they went while paying tuition.
Mm.
Um, but that was like mixed reviews because then if they couldn't find a time or like they would book like 2 days before and I would be like, oh, well, I had planned to go do this thing, but now I have to teach this person. Um, and I mean, I do have set working hours, so it's not like they can book me at like 10 p.m. or something.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
yeah, so I'm gonna try just doing tuition or drop-in lessons. And drop-in lessons, some people just want voice lessons once in a while. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm willing to give you voice lessons once in a
Absolutely.
while. I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, the thing for me with drop-in lessons is it has what I call an ugly tax.
Yep.
Um, that
Absolutely.
it's like,
You should be charging more for drop-in lessons.
yes,
Absolutely. I agree.
I'm just like, this is inconvenient for me for a variety of reasons. And in general, it's better, in my opinion, for people to take regular lessons
Mhm.
instead of once in a while. So I want to discourage people from doing that.
But you know what's
Um,
interesting? I'm really glad you brought this up. This is actually a service that I think a lot of teachers offer, especially in performance. Like, there's people that are on tour
mhm.
for 6 months and then they want to come in and have a lesson. Like, that makes
Yep.
sense. They're not going to be able to do a weekly lesson with you. And yes, it should. It's not part of your tuition package. So you haven't been able to defer the costs over a year, right? Or 10 months or whatever. So I have many, actually I have a lot of friends who are professional accompanists, and
Mhm.
they have time in their schedule for drop-in lessons, and they are a lot more expensive than their tuition students. I wouldn't call it an ugly tax. I would just be like, it's costing me more.
Yeah, this one time I worked at a tailor shop and they had an ugly tax where they would charge people more who brought in like clothes that hadn't been washed, which like always wash your clothes before you bring them to a tailor, even if they're
Oh.
brand new. But also like if someone just had like this old pair of jeans that they couldn't let go, it was just filled with holes and they wanted you to sew them all up, and it's like just get a new pair of jeans. These ones are dead. They would charge you more for that like inconvenience.
Well, I mean, it's
And
people's time and it's valuing time. I get that. And
yeah,
also
and
gross. Like, yeah,
right,
wash your
right.
damn
Oh,
clothes.
I know. But yeah, that's just why I call it an ugly tax.
I love that.
Um,
Now, you also do group classes.
yep, I do. I do two different types of group classes. Last year, I only did one type. I did a group class for kids. And the age of this class always fluctuates slightly. So, and I think an important thing to know about this group class is that I'm always scheming. Like I'm always like, what if I tweaked this? What if I did this differently?
Absolutely.
So every year things are slightly different. Last year, I ran two group classes, and in the fall semester, there weren't enough kids to run both of them. So I
Mm,
consolidated them into one, which
okay.
I think it's just important for people to note that sometimes things don't work out. And it's not
You got
like
to do what you
everything
got to
I've
do.
ever done has gone so well. Um, and then in the winter, I had enough kids that I could run two group classes. So I had one for kids ages 4 to 6 and one for 6 to 8. So I
Mm,
had just kind of this overlap. Um, and I keep the group classes small because it's not one, because it's
mm,
not a choir, and
yep.
two, because I am but one person and
Right. I know. Classroom
I
management is a thing.
it's such a real thing. Oh my goodness. And I don't know, even things like I don't have a lot of kids in my non-teaching life, and I've always found I do really well one-on-one with kids, but learning how to like just deal with groups of children
Oh my
has
goodness.
is
Yes.
something only in like the last couple of years that I have started to learn
Yep.
about. And
Just fun fact, my first year of teaching small group classes, I almost died. I'm serious cuz I was so used to the one-on-one. If you are a private teacher and
mhm.
you go into groups. Now, I thought I knew what I was doing cuz I had had harmony groups with my teenagers before, and I was like, "Oh, it'll be easy." But I literally had to call in my assistant Heidi, who's a classroom teacher, and she's laughing because she's used to having like 27 kids, and I have six, and I can't manage
Right?
them, right? So it's a thing. It's a big classroom management. If you're not used to it, it's a thing. I hear you. I'm with you
Yep.
on that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so I had these group classes last year, and I had three kids in one class, and I had, I think, six kids in the other class. And ooh, this will maybe be helpful for people who who really want to give students who, or potential students who maybe can't afford voice lessons, um, sort of opportunities. I have a class helper, and
Oh,
my class helper is a student that I love to teach. She
brilliant.
is a delight. And we've kind of become friends because we both did stuff at the community theater. And
Hmm.
so I teach her lessons. And in exchange for lessons, she is my class helper on
Oh, that's
Saturdays.
brilliant.
Yeah. And so that has been a lifesaver because it frees me to focus on like, what game are we doing? Let's learn the words. And she can be like, you know,
The
don't
child
hit that
wrangler.
other kid. Make sure you come back from the bathroom, like that kind of thing.
Yep,
Yeah, she can do a
absolutely.
bit of wrangling.
Yep,
Um, and also to have another strong singer in the group just like helps bolster
yep,
uh
absolutely.
kids a little bit, especially beginning because they're all kids tend to be really shy.
Hmm.
And when I first started my group classes, oh boy, I like in the first couple of classes, I'd be like, okay, let's sing this song. And no one would sing.
Yep,
And I was
absolutely.
like, oh no, what am I going to do? Like the kids in my group singing class don't sing. Um, but you know what? They get more comfortable, then
They
they
do. It
sing.
takes them a while.
Yep.
That fight or flight switch has to be switched off.
Yep. And it's
Yep.
like, don't panic if the first couple of weeks you're like, this is solo hour. Well, children just stare at me.
Yep.
um, yeah, so I do group classes with a like I make a curriculum.
Hmm.
I I use a lot of full voice materials and also songs by Donna Rodenizer, whom I've never met, but I love her music so much. Um, so I did that. And in the spring, I did a training for a group called Music Together, which is
Mhm.
like kinder music or
Yep.
music for young children. And honestly, honestly, I did this training because it's like, oh, I can do classes during the day. A
Yes.
lot of people have asked me about it. I like can see that there's a demand for this, but like, does the thought of teaching mommy and me classes fill my soul with joy? No. But this sound like it probably won't be bad. It'll just be like maybe not my favorite thing, but it'll be fun. So I did this training and I love it. I love it
Oh,
so much.
wow.
So I'm really glad that I took that chance because I really did not think I would like it. But I did two classes. I ran two classes this summer that were smaller, and I made it clear to the families that like this is my first time running this class. I'm doing it in the summer so we can kind of test it out,
Mm,
be really relaxed about it. Um, and I'm really glad that I ran summer classes. And that's what I did with my group classes too. I ran my very first group class in the summer
right.
because I was like, I just need like a practice run to
Yeah,
see like
absolutely.
what don't I know that I don't know? I don't know.
Right.
Um, and I'm really glad that I've done that. So I tend to use summers as like experiment time.
Sure.
Um,
I think my first two group classes were like just big experiments, you
yep,
know? And
yep,
all of my plans were sabotaged. All of them. Like I was like, we're
yep.
going to do these musical theater numbers and I'll do this and this and then I got like four absolutely terrified to sing little girls who loved singing but were not ready to sing together. And then I all of the repertoire I had chosen had to get rid of it. All of the activities were too terrifying. Like I literally had to like thank God I went to school for jazz and
Uh-huh.
improvisation is something that I learned because my first couple of classes were like all my plans are garbage. So let's play this little game. And I'm pretty sure that's how I came up with the vocal roller coaster thing. Cause it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Let's sing a line here. Honestly, it was literally, it was a sink or swim moment kind of thing.
Yep. Yes. Oh, so much. And I don't know. I think it's so I have a doctorate in music. And sometimes I feel like I don't know anything.
Mm.
And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a good teacher. All of these, all of these thoughts about like just insecurity. And and sometimes literally all I have is I could sing better than a 5-year-old, so I'm ready to teach these children. and it's so hard to I think it can be so hard to have compassion for ourselves when we're experimenting on things that it's like
Yes.
I started a group class. I had no idea what I was doing. I like I had to make my own lesson plans for the first time and do all of these things that I was just like, and I didn't take music lessons as a kid. So like
Mhm.
I didn't start till I was a teenager. So like I don't know what kind of music games. I was also homeschooled. So I wasn't in like
Oh.
a public school music class.
Oh,
It's like
wow.
I don't know what people do in public school. I don't know how music classes go. Um yeah, but just really like it's like sometimes it feels like everything is on fire. But like you're just learning and swimming and
Yeah.
just trying to and like it's music class. These children, they're gonna be okay, even if you don't know what you're doing. Like they'll be fine and they'll learn things and
They're gonna, if they leave your studio with a smile on your face, their face, you've done, you're a good job, right? If they leave
right,
singing
like
or humming a song, you're good. It's good.
right, they're just like they're gonna have fun and sometimes we make mistakes or you'll try to explain something and they'll be like, what?
Yeah.
Um and like that's okay.
That's
It
my
just
lessons
happens
with
like that.
adults. That's my lessons with adults. You try to explain something, they're like, what? And you're like, oh, I'm a horrible teacher.
Yes, yes.
What would you say to teachers out there that are, doing what you're doing? They're trying new things and they don't have all the answers and they're struggling with, making a living, and what would be your advice for them?
Oh, I mean, I think that the biggest things that have helped me is making friends with other voice teachers
Mm.
and having people who just kind of understand the voice teacher struggle. Um, and so much self compassion around just like it's okay to get things wrong, or it's okay to not quite know what you're doing.
Mhm.
And like you're trying your best and that's all you can do.
Mhm.
And I, yeah, I think it's just being honest with yourself about just about, what you want from life and why you're teaching. And I think for me, a big thing is that I teach because I want to teach and because it has lots of things that I like, even though it's also so scary sometimes.
Mhm.
And if you don't like it, that's okay.
Mhm.
I think for me, it's this like having that back door of like, if things get too terrible, I can, I can always get a muggle job. Like I could, like if you don't like this, you can leave. And that's okay too. But you don't want to leave, do you? And it's
Right.
because, and I think too, taking time to look back over like, and this podcast has been so helpful, to kind of look back and be like, oh, some things actually did go well, or like some things,
Yeah. Celebrate your
I tried.
wins.
Yeah. And like I tried to run 2 classes and I couldn't. And, I remember at the time being like, oh no, like what about my budget and all of these different things? And like, oh, I can only run 1 class and that class only has like 3 kids in it. And then the next term I ran 2 classes. And it's just kind of allowing for change and growth and recognizing that like the only constant in life is change, and that it's okay if you're kind of like things are always changing and I always have to like learn and grow and do these things and I never get to sit down for one moment. Like that's just how it is. That's just how it is a lot of times, and that's normal and okay. Like,
Hmm.
and that being scared isn't a reason to not do something necessarily. I mean, only you can judge your limits. But for me, I'm like, yes, being scared is sort of like a low level constant. So if I didn't do things because I was scared, I would do very little.
I love it. I love it. That should be a t-shirt. If I didn't do things because I was scared, I would do very little. I love that. Oh, Bethany. Bethany, now for people are probably thinking, so going back to you only had 2 students sign up originally. How many students did you end
Yes.
up with in your studio after the big price increase?
Oh, so only two former students came back. I found other people. Other people approached me and they slowly trickled in. And I think that's the thing is like it wasn't this like avalanche of people just like
Sure.
lining outside my door. Um, so like people started coming and I ended up, and this includes my group classes, I think I ended up with 28 students,
Wow.
but like, you know, 8 of those are group classes.
Hmm.
And for me, private students, my goal is around this year. And it depends on like, are they taking half an hour or hour long lessons? But my goal is like 17
Yeah.
students, like private students, 18, right around there. Um, And yeah, I remember having this moment last year where I was like, am I full? Is my studio full? And like this was like in March and we wrap up in June. So it was kind of like, am I? And it was such a strange feeling of like, if someone messages me and wants lessons, I can tell them no. I can just be
Wow.
like, actually, you can go on a wait list, or like, oh, like that was such a strange feeling because you spend so much time being like, okay, I need students, I
Yeah.
gotta advertise, I
You
can
don't
do all these
recognize.
things.
Well, and then there's that mindset of I better take them. Like I better take them cuz just in case, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yep. And that is so hard to resist. It's so hard. Um, but I think part of it is like, well, why do I want more students? Like, oh, well, I'm scared that other students might leave. And it's like, well, when does that end? Like, where's the cutoff
Mhm.
point for that? And if past you said, this is the end point, why are you ignoring past you now?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I think just recognizing that a big part of it is just fear that, it's like fear of the unknown. And it's like you're having more students is not going to fix that fear.
Mhm.
Like there is no number of students that is, in my opinion, there's no number of students that you will go, okay, I'm not scared of the unknown now. Like
Right.
that
Right. That's a good
that
point.
won't happen.
Yeah. That's a good point.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like one more student is not going to fix your fear of uncertainty.
Mhm.
Um, And yeah, it's just, and this year, like some students that I had last year aren't coming back, like for a wide variety of reasons. For none of them, as far as I know, it's not like I hated you so much, I'm never coming back.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but, and I had one student last year that we were together for the year. And just in the spring, it was like, like, you don't need me. Like
Yeah.
you're okay. Like you're a strong, confident musician. Your voice does what you want it to do. It like, you can come see me for pep talk if you want, but like you can also just not. And they're not going to come back this year. And I feel
Or maybe they're
fine
gonna come
about that.
in, would you charge them that ugly tax? 'Cause
Oh yeah, I'm like, aha, you. Um, and some of my students who took, this is very gratifying. Some of them who were half-hour students last year are going to be hours long this
Oh,
year.
so good.
Yeah, and a couple who were piano are going to be voice and piano. A couple
Oh,
who were voice are
perfect.
going to be like, yeah. Um, yeah, and I get to offer these like music together classes for kids, for like infants up to age 5, and then an accompanying grown up.
Mhm.
And I'm only I'm only going to do one group class beyond that for ages 5 to 7.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I think one thing that it might be really interesting for people to know is that I, before 2020, I had never taught full time.
Mm.
Um, I had kind of taught on and off part time. I took a break for my doctorate. I moved a lot, kind of around. And it wasn't until 2020 that I was like, this is how I'm going to live now.
Mhm.
And so I think, it's like in what, 2, 3 years? One, you can make a lot of progress, it turns out. And that it's like, I don't have years and years of experience running a studio. And, it's like you just, yeah. So like I have this little cohort of last year. They were all like 4, newly 4, or like 3 turning 4. And now they're all like turning 5, and like just getting to see kids growing up and coming back year after year. It's like, that's not an experience I've really had. And
Mm.
like I have one student, one of the ones who came back, who was like, what, 7 when she started taking lessons
Mm.
from me, and like now she's 10. And the difference between a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old is huge. And it's so cool to get to see that
Okay.
and to see like her
I'm
singing over
I'm go
time.
I'm gonna give you a scary heads up. So, you get to a point where students of yours that you taught bring their kids for you
Oh,
for
oh
lessons.
gosh. Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So my student Brooke, I taught her when she was in high school, and then her daughter Piper was in my small group class. And it was like,
Ah.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And yes, yes.
I'm not ready.
Or when some of your students they go off, and they do their university thing, and then they start, performing and teaching, and you're like, "Oh, huh. Now they're the cool teacher and I'm their teacher. Huh. Yes." So it's coming, Bethany.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Oh boy. And
Bethany, I cannot thank you. I need to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your story, and for being really vulnerable about how hard it was, and the big changes you made and how scary that was, because I think and for people listening to this podcast, every time Somebody goes into the forum and they ask about prices, and there's people that say, I haven't raised my prices in years, and then they wear it like a badge of honor. My heart breaks because
Mm-hmm.
they can't be making a living wage, and they can't be supporting themselves, and they won't have the money to invest in themselves or their businesses or anything. And I as soon as somebody asks those questions, my heart just sinks, because I know that the full,
Mm-hmm.
like, people love to just share the have not story, right?
Yeah.
And you did the hard work, and every time I see you and I hear all the things you're doing, I think there is somebody that's doing the hard things, and thank you for sharing your heartfelt story. And I just thank you. I can't thank you enough. And you keep doing that good work, and pretty soon those kids will be bringing their kids to you, and you'll be like, "Oh, what happened? Where did that decade go?"
Thanks so much, Nikki. And thank you for this podcast because, yeah, 2 summers ago, I didn't have money through the summer because voice teacher life and just not managing things super well. I I worked through the summer as a janitor, and I was listening to podcasts. I totally listened to every single business
Oh,
related episode you have ever done from day one until the
wow.
present. And it helped me so much. And it really helped change my outlook on running music, like a music studio as a business. And I mean, it's what kind of gave me the courage and the impetus to like become a member of the Speakeasy Cooperative and do
Mhm.
those things. But kind of before I was ready to do those things or able to do those things, this podcast was just invaluable to
Aw.
helping me figure out a little bit more what I'm doing out here. So thank you so
Oh,
much.
that means so much. Thank you. And thank you for kicking off season 8. So I'm just
Yay!
so thrilled. I'm so thrilled that you're here, and congratulations on all your success. You've earned it, and you've done the hard work. And I know that teachers listening to this are going to find inspiration from your stories. So I will. I'm coming back to Yarmouth soon. I'm going to visit.
Yay!
So
Scenic Yarmouth.
So Bethany, my son plays. Bethany knows my son plays baseball. So Yarmouth is the team that nobody can beat. Did you know that?
No, I
No,
did
they're
not know that.
yeah, Yarmouth. Nobody can beat Yarmouth. It's like they've got like 27 pitchers on the team, and for a 13U team, they can all pitch, which is a little sus. I'm just gonna say, like, I don't know what's happening in Yarmouth, but I think they're bringing in pitchers from Maine to play with the kids. That's what I think. That's what we all
Yeah,
think. The
it's
fairy
that
come
fairy from
the
Maine. They
fairy
just
from Maine comes in with those kid pitchers, and it's like they all give them uniforms. So I don't know what's up with you Yarmouth people, but we're on to you. Anyhow, Bethany, I thank you so much. I can't wait to see you and hug you. And again, congratulations on your studio and all your success, and thank you for sharing your story with us today.
thank you.
A very special thank you to Bethany for that wonderful conversation. So inspiring, and I hope you took away some courage from her story. I want to remind everybody that right now, until September 8th, hurry, 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 we have our seasonal back to school sale. 20% off digital songs, songbooks, resources, and hurry, hurry, hurry. 20% off our Happy Singing Teacher online course. Please take advantage of it. It's a growing course. We are always adding new lessons to it. This is the lowest price it will be in all of time and history. So please take advantage of that. As always, my friends, as you start another season of teaching, I am wishing you sincerely inspired teaching, successful businesses, and Happy singing.